It's Wednesday, May 20th, 2009, a day which will go down in infamy as one of the most shameful in the history of the state. The report of the Commission on Child Abuse shows...
10 years after Taoiseach Bertie Ahern's apology on behalf of the state, the Commission to Inquire into Child Abuse published its report.
This is the end of a long journey for us in the Commission, but that is little when set against the long search for justice and recognition by victims of institutional abuse.
The Catholic primate tonight apologised.
I knew this was going to be significant. Just how significant, I had no idea. Was I worried? Of course. There were 5 volumes, over 3,000 pages. There it was. This was the best we could do.
It's a harrowing report. Sexual abuse was a chronic problem in many of the institutions. Children were brutalised.
Physical punishment was severe, excessive and pervasive. Sexual abuse was a chronic problem.
The report outlined in shocking detail what children went through in residential institutions.
They were back to 1940, we were talking the use of horsewhip on children.
There was a human response, except one of contempt.
What they are is but illegitimate and pure dirt. This is what I was speaking about the boys.
Children suffered malnutrition. Half of the young boys who were committed were aged under 5. So these were...
Television producer Mary Raftery played a major
weight to the Department of Education, and indeed this report is absolutely scathing about the Department of Education and its grotesque dereliction of duty. Conservative Catholic quarters and commentators, we have this running defence that it's only a couple of bad apples. Of all things that this report does at extraordinary length, it gives the lie to that defence.
And the Commission's report was finally published, and it was in black and white that this did happen. This happened to survivors. So that was a validation on it.
Whitewashes, but none of the perpetrators, even those who have been found guilty by the courts, are named here.
Absolutely, the limitations put on.
Originally it was intended that abusers would be named in the Commission report, but after a legal challenge by the Christian Brothers, a decision was taken to use pseudonyms for the perpetrators.
Not naming them, although they were dead, you know, and they'd been proved that they'd done wrong. Not naming them, calling them Mickey Mouse or whatever it was. That wasn't no good to anybody.
Outside the report's launch, survivors have vented their frustration that it would not lead to the prosecutions of abusers or to the calling to...
Now I know they gave a good report on it, you know, and they did a decent report on it. But a report like that doesn't help survivors.
Well, this proves that this inquiry is a farce.
It's just loads of words on a piece of paper. And, you know, even when they had that press conference, they didn't want survivors there. It's almost like they're ashamed of us.
After Christine Buckley started asking questions, she finally has answers and is vindicated.
Despite the damning findings made against many perpetrators, no individual was held to account and nobody went to jail for the crimes committed against children based on evidence from the inquiry.
Thousands of children in state-funded institutions.
Not one criminal prosecution resulted from the Rand report, or indeed from any of them, because they weren't expected to make findings of that nature. That could only be done by the criminal courts. But the findings are overwhelming, and the evidence is overwhelming.
Because of how the Commission was set up, the evidence gathered could not be given to Gardaí for use in any criminal investigation.
Accountability is absolutely central to justice. If a state fails to prosecute child torture, it basically tells survivors that what they experienced doesn't matter and that they are not equal citizens of our state.
Tom Sweeney got out of St. Joseph's Industrial School in Salt Hill at 16, traumatised by the physical and sexual abuse he suffered there.
I was afraid of everything that came around me. If I sat in the pictures, I was saying, who's that sitting beside me? And I'd be moving away because I'd get into a sweat and I'd run. I'd be gone, like a flash. And that's the way it was. I lost all interest in life after that. But I did marry, yeah. And then after that, when the boys came on the scene, I was bringing this discipline into their life, you know. I'd say, Mark, you're late. Thomas, you're late. I was hitting them severely. Like I was hitting them with sticks on the head. I was hitting them with sticks on the legs. I was doing what Christian Brothers done to me. That's the only education I learned, was strictly discipline. They all ended up on drugs, Mick. Thomas, 15 years in prison. Dexter in prison. Clive, 3 years in prison. Poor Mark. One night he brought 2 young fellas into the house. They were heroin addicts. 1 injection, he collapsed on the floor. So after 7 days I had to turn the life support machine off in the farm.
The debate on whether the religious congregations can be forced to make a greater contribution to the compensation fund for victims rumbles on.
When the Ryan report was published in 2009, the Redress Board had already cost over €1 billion. The religious orders had agreed to pay €128 million, or just over 10%. Now there were calls from all sectors of society for them to pay more.
With the Minister for Education ruling out any renegotiation of the Catholic Church's liability to compensate survivors.
The people put forward by the state were able to skill the negotiation.
This became a huge public debate. One participant was Michael O'Brien, who spent 8 years in Ferryhouse in Tipperary.
Well, I tell you, Joe, I got on to both parts.
Our first questioner is Michael O'Brien.
Mr. Chairman, panel. Should the government freeze the assets of the religious orders if they don't pay more into the Redress Board fund?
Should the government freeze the assets of religious orders if they don't pay more? Minister.
Well, it's not a power that the government has. The Constitution protects the right to private property.
I had no idea of what I was going to say until I seen Minister Dempsey.
That isn't an option or from a government point of view.
I knew then that now or never. First of all, Mr. Minister, you made a bags of it in the beginning by changing the judges. Because I went to the Lafay Commission and you had 7 barristers there questioning me and telling me I was telling lies when I told them that I got raped of a Saturday, got a merciful beating after it, and then he came along the following morning and put Holy Communion in my mouth. You don't know what happened there. And you're talking to a Fianna Fáil man, a former councillor, a former mayor. You're talking to that what tooth and nail for the party that you're talking about now. You didn't do it right. You got it wrong. Admit it. And apologise for doing that. I attempted to commit suicide. There's the woman who saved me from committing suicide on my way down from Dublin after spending 5 days at the Commission. They brought a man over from Rome, 90 odd years of age, to tell me I was telling lies. That I wasn't beaten for an hour, non-stop, by 2 of them. By 2 of them, non-stop, from head to toe without a shred of cloth on my body. That woman will tell you how many times I jump out of the bed at night with the sweat pumping out of me because I see these fellas at the end of the bed with their fingers doing that to me and pulling me into the room to rape me, to bugger me and beat the shite out of me. How can anyone? You're talking about constitution. These people would gladly say yes to a constitution to freeze the funds of the religious order. This state, this country of ours, will say yes to that constitution if you have to change it. Don't say you can't change it. You're the government of this state. You run this state. So for God's sake, stop mealy-mouthing. Because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Following public pressure, most of the congregations agreed to pay a further €353 million in cash and property to the Redress Fund. But this payment was not legally binding. To date, €242 million remain outstanding.